first of all, thank you all for being here, and thank you to the organization, and especially to Laura Massetti for putting all of this wonderful conference together. So it's off. It's off. Okay, great. So I'm going to give a very brief. Let me also get my watch. A very brief introduction of what I'm going to be talking about, and what is the framework and the main text I want to cover. So basically this all arises from trying to research Männerbünde institutions, which I will describe a bit later, in the Homeric hymn to Apollo, which was a figure that was a bit understudied inside this field of research, apart from some brief remark concerning some attributes of Apollo which were similar to other ones we find in other Männerbünde deities in other traditions, such as the Indic or Celtic ones. Generally, studying this literary text, what I will mostly focus is on motifs rather than literary motifs rather than basic features. So this is the basic outline of the presentation. I will briefly describe what Männerbünde are for those of you who are not that acquainted with the topic. I know there are some experts on the topic in the room, but some people may not know it as well. So just a brief introduction, and then I have two motifs from both the poems. If you don't know, the Homeric hymn to Apollo is sometimes described as composite, having two different hymns stacked on top of one another, each one with its own poem. I found some, I would say, Vedic counterparts to each one in the Indic traditions. Some comparative text we can use to understand them better. We will be covering these poems, which are not actually mythical texts. Let me underline that. I think what we will see a bit is that they showcase more of a ritual context. So when we talk about Indo-European Männerbünde, I think it's a topic that we need to renew a bit regarding the general features we look for, but when looking generally at it, we can say that it's the institution of male ephebs that leave normative society to dedicate themselves to plundering or other activities, and the general features attributed to it in the literature are obviously gender exclusivity, although there are some Greek Frauenbünde. Then there we have the chosen leader, which is not always present. It is in some form a way of military training before joining normative society and joining the regular army. They are sometimes also portrayed as naked or wearing animal pelts. Not always, sometimes they also wear some non-normative clothing like black clothing, and they also are portrayed as savage, often with the wolf image, sometimes with other zoomorphic forms, but it's not univocal, I would say. Sometimes non-Männerbünde characters are also associated with wolves, and sometimes they are associated with other animals. And some others, especially relying on Hoffler, say that they have a special relationship to death. So first, let me highlight that we are talking about, I like this general summary by McCone, found first in his 1987 article Hund, Wolf und Krieger by den Indo-Germanen, and then also printed in English in this later article from 2024. We are talking about the ideology of the elites, generally. And he puts forward these terminological differentiations between elite youth and elite members of normative society, and members of the non-elite. I would also say this is not univocal, but it gives us a general framework to think that we are talking exclusively about elites, nobles, in a strongly agonistic setting. We can go forward a bit. So these are the texts you also have. Let's show the translation, which is the next slide. These are the texts you have in the first page, the Greek ones, and then you have the passages from the Atharvaveda Paipalada. This is the beginning of the Homeric hymn to Apollo, and it shows Apollo going into the Olympus and being disarmed by his mother Leto, while all of the other gods are scared at his presence, showcasing his violent attributes. I just wanted to highlight that we have a whole hymn dedicated to another Männerbünde deity, Rudra, the most prominent in Vedic text in the Atharvaveda Paipalada. It's dedicated to Rudra as being called to the ritual, to the sacrifice which is being performed, with an unstrung bow, following another hymn dedicated to Rudra. So I would say we also have very prominent the same root dedicated to the string of the bow and the stretched bow, titainei in Greek, and the atana, it's in weird Sandhi, the anatataya bow in the Atharvaveda Paipalada text. So my general idea is that this motif of the untightened bow, unstrung bow, with the common Indo-European root, symbolizes these repressed violent tendencies of the Männerbünde deities, and is a form of ritualized reenactment of the para-establishment violence being repurposed for the good of the community, as these deities need to be incorporated or reinterpreted in some way. And this is also showcased in ritual texts, for example, in the Bratyastoma. And now going forward to what gives the title to the conference, we have the enthronement scenes of the Bratya, which is the Männerbund normal person in the Vedic tradition, or in the Atharvavedic tradition, which in the hymn dedicated to him in the Vratya Kanda, which is the 15th book of the Atharvaveda Shaunaka, in this text he's seated on a throne. And this throne is described in an ekphrastic manner as having, as you can read, apart from summer and spring and the two winter and autumn season being the legs, the rest of the elements composing the throne itself are parts of the poetic canon. We have Berhatan Ratantara and Yajatniya and Vamadevya, which are related to the Samaveda. The stanzas are obviously to the Rig Veda, and also the Yajus. We have Sama afterwards, and Udgita, and Tiziana Pontillo actually in an article in 2012 pointed out that the Brahman here might also relate to the Atharvaveda itself, to the Atharvaveda collection, which is what we have described in the next, not this slide, that's on that slide. This is the general summary. And this motif is repurposed later in funerary hymns, which also relate to try to portray the deceased one as sovereign. And as a summary, we see that this ekphrasis of the throne of the Ekavratya showcases the Ekavratya's dominion over the poetic canon, which is, and let me reference here my dear colleague Domenico, who wrote an article I'm going to be stealing a lot from in the next few slides. On the second, right after the second poem of the Homeric hymn, Apollo is described going back to Olympus and playing. He's playing his lyre, and we see how all of the different deities follow him in the dance and in the choral singing, which are two different sides of the same coin. So just you can read it in the handout as we go through. All the muses at the same time respond to him, and can we see the text for a bit? The previous one, the next one, that one. And how they sing in response to him about the gifts of the god and the hardship of men, which, as Domenico said, could be representative of the themes of epic poetry. We can, and now some other different deities join him. For first the well-braided graces, then the Horai, which are the seasons, Harmonia and Hebe, and then some other deities. Let's just Aphrodite, Artemis showcasing Apollo's archer as an archer, and some other interesting epithets, especially for Hermes, Argiphon, and going to the summary of this this summary. All actually put forward by Domenico here present. No, thank you. The graces actually represent the bliss. Also, we can see it etymologically, brought by the recitation of the sacred songs and ritual formulae, also related to Vedic Haryati. The Horai, the seasons, and Aphrodite represent the fertility associated with the god. I would recommend Felson's article on this. The fertility associated with the god at whose expense, also relating to how this violent attitude of Apollo is vital to his violent attributes. Then harmony represents his role as guaranteeing the cosmic order established by his father, which we can also see a bit later when Apollo defeats the snake Pytho. Then Hebe corresponds to the vigor of ephebic youth. We see how Apollo is portrayed as Kat Prothebe later in the hymn, in one of his manifestations in the hymn. And then Artemis and Ares and Hermes, through his epithet Argei Fontes, symbolize the actual violence associated with the god, and such as human sufferings and death, which were sung by the muses a bit earlier. So relating to this, we have some other evidence to attest that this is not an isolated feature in this hymn. Actually, Apollo leads the muses or the charites, the graces, in two Pindaric odes. First, on the fifth Nemean, the muses respond to him while he's directing them in a sort of choral song. And as the text said, after prelude to Zeus, they sing the actual topic of the Pindaric choral song, which is the wedding of Thetis and Peleus. So this is also a sort of a poem initiating this other song in Pindar. And we have another really short text in the 14th Olympic, where the Graces respond to his playing. This is not only attested as a literary motif, but also starting from the early 5th century onward, we see a lot of vases portraying, and when I say a lot, I just brought 3 or 4 of them, but there's maybe just trying to remember the entries from the Lexicon Myconographicum Mythologiae Classicae. There may be something around 100 attestations of Apollo, in this case individually with a muse, and they appear seated or standing in different vases, and one with the lyre or the other, whether it's the muse or Apollo. In this case, we have this really beautiful lekithos. But if we go onward, we have some other vases showcasing Apollo as leading a dance. Here, I think it's clearly a dance. We will see in the next one. It may be a form of choral singing, as we said. These two are two different sides of the same coin. So this might be a general feature in portraying Apollo, maybe starting from being the Homeric hymn, the more developed one. It may be earlier, but it can be iconographically dependent on that, or just a common feature of Apollo directing these poetic attestations. So as common features concerning this, we have the idea of enthronement. These deities are enthroned in one ritual form or another to showcase their relation to royalty and to the establishment in a way. These deities need to be repressed or convinced to please not be as violent as they would be otherwise. And in the first poem, we see an invitation to the ritual, in this case, as Apollo arrives to Olympus, and in the other one, as Rudra is invited to participate or to take part in the ritual for which the hymn in the Atharva Veda Paipalada is used, and also the unfastened or unstrung bow as an image of controlled violence. While in the second selection of text, we see this dominion or submissions of the other deities, which support the Ekavratya in building his throne, or in the case of Apollo, as they follow him into the dance or the choral singing. Also, they're the meaning of the poetic canon, and all of this is portrayed iconically through the ekphrasis of the throne, or the description generally of the dance, portraying the different poetic genres. Lastly, I wanted to showcase this other Greek vase, this Attic Hydria of the Berlin painter. On which we see Apollo sitting on a winged tripod, flying over the sea while playing his lyre. And just as a general reflection of what the tripod actually symbolizes in this image, the tripod, apart from being really important in the divination at Delphi, is also a showcase of wealth and status, also gifted to winners in different sport activities. So it was also sometimes used as a throne. So we may have here also an iconic representation of Apollo in his enthroned version, because in the other Greek vases in which I saw, in which Apollo was seated, it was just a normal regular stool, but this may symbolize this poetic feature iconically. These are just the regular references, and I would like to thank you all for your attention, and we have some time for questions, for debate, and yeah.